What is up, guys? Welcome to my trailer breakdown for Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2, or really like the end game of the Crisis, because there already was a Part 2, that's the Batwoman episode. But if you look at the CW's YouTube channel, they call this trailer Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 promo. So this is basically being considered the second part of the Crisis, with Hour 1, 2, and 3, the Infinity War, being Part 1, and then Hour 4 and 5, the end game, is Part 2. Now, I will be obviously breaking down this trailer in this video, talking about everything there is to talk about from this trailer. And yeah, I know this video is a little late compared to my trailer breakdowns for like Part 2 and 3, but that's only because those episodes were coming out mere hours after I was able to make those videos. Well, this one, or these two, are coming out in a month, so it wasn't really in any rush, and there was another video I wanted to make first. So anyway, let's get right into my trailer breakdown for Part 2, or the end game of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Before that, let's watch the trailer.
Where am I?
You're in the Speed Force, Barry.
Oliver. The AntiMonitor is at the dawn of time. He's extremely powerful. The 8 of us might not be enough.
Oh my God.
Crisis on Infinite Earths. The CW's crossover event concludes January 14th.
So the trailer begins with Barry in the Speed Force, which is not really something I expected to see. I also didn't expect to see like something like Oliver here, where he's seemingly the Spectre, and he's seemingly basically at this point a lot more powerful than he's been before, maybe like equally as powerful as the AntiMonitor, or at least almost as powerful. He does say later that maybe the 8 of us are not enough, so he, the Spectre, with the other 8 heroes, including a Kryptonian and a Speedster, is still not enough. So I guess the Spectre is not as powerful as the AntiMonitor, but he is certainly the most powerful superhero I'm guessing we've seen in the Arrowverse. But he's also powerful enough to be in the Speed Force and talk to Barry in the Speed Force. Now, seeing the Speed Force in this crossover is not exactly what I expected. However, in hindsight, maybe I should have, because even though the Speed Force was created decades after the Crisis, the original Crisis, happened, it does have a big role in that Crisis, as when Barry died, sacrificing himself to destroy the antimatter cannon, saving several universes in the multiverse, he didn't actually die. He went into the Speed Force, and when the Speed Force was introduced into the DC universe, he, a couple years after that, left, and he basically came back to life. But this does mean, even though, like I said earlier, the Speed Force wasn't a thing yet in the DC universe, it still played a part in the Crisis, as that's where Barry went, and he didn't actually die. So maybe in hindsight, I should have seen the Speed Force having a role here as an actual possibility. But what the actual role of the Speed Force will be, I'm not exactly sure at all. It does seem like through the Speed Force we'll be getting a scene where Barry realizes and reacts to the fact that Oliver is back, and maybe Oliver is a lot more powerful now as he is the Spectre. But also the Speed Force definitely can help out a little bit. We did learn earlier in Legends of Tomorrow, like a lot earlier, that the Speed Force is not bound by time or space and can go to the vanishing point. So it is clear that the Speed Force was able to survive the destruction of the multiverse. So because of that, with the now 8 characters left, the 7 Paragons and Oliver, they will be held by the Speed Force maybe to destroy and stop the Anti-Monitor, and I'm guessing also bring back the multiverse. But other than that, I don't really know what the role of the Speed Force will be, other than maybe connecting to the ReverseFlash, which I'll get to in a minute. So right after that, there's a shot of the 7 Paragons. From left to right, you have White Canary, Ryan Choi, Batwoman the Flash, Martian Manhunter, Lex Luthor, and Supergirl. But what's interesting here is that Ryan Choi has a beard, which he didn't have during Part 3. This is also something we saw in a previous shot, like the first trailer we ever got for Crisis. The first shot we ever got of the Crisis, like officially, was of Part 4, it seems, where they're in this green area, seemingly maybe the dawn of time, where we see the 7 Paragons. It's crazy that they showed that in the beginning, and none of us knew this is where it was heading with the destruction of the entire multiverse. But one thing that is clear is that Ryan Choi has a beard, which definitely signifies the passing of time. Much like Avengers Endgame having a 5-year time jump, this version of Endgame, the DC or Crisis on Infinite Earths version of Endgame, will have something similar, although not to the same extent. It doesn't seem like there will be anywhere near a 5-year time jump, but there will be a month time jump. Basically, the time between the last episode and this episode, when it actually came out, that will most likely be the actual time jump, which is obviously accounted for in the story with the actual time jump, which is not what I expected whatsoever. whatsoever, but it is interesting seeing these 7 characters existing in the Vanishing Point, probably doing nothing for a whole month, and then the Speed Force comes around with Oliver, and then they fight the AntiMonitor. I think it'll be interesting to show them living without the multiverse for an entire month, and that's probably what we're seeing, as there will be a time jump, which again is very evident based off Ryan's beard. So Oliver says that the AntiMonitor is at the dawn of time, while we see a shot of the AntiMonitor, and it does seem like in these last 2 parts, unlike the first 3, we're going to get a lot from the AntiMonitor in terms of his appearances, which I'm definitely excited for, as he could certainly be a very, very good villain, and certainly the best crossover villain we've ever gotten. Regardless though, Oliver says that the AntiMonitor is at the dawn of time, as we see a shot of the AntiMonitor along with this green area, or this area with the green tint that we've been seeing in trailers, as well as this one. It does seem like this green area is the dawn of time, which is different from the comics, as in the comics the dawn of time is typically this hand holding like a ball of energy, or other times it's just space. Here, this time around, it's this green tinted area, which honestly I don't really think it looks good visually. It just looks a little bit dry and boring, and I'm hoping in the actual episode it looks better than it does here. Regardless, seeing the Dawn of Time certainly could mean a lot and is really interesting, as in the original Crisis, the Dawn of Time had a huge role in 2 different instances. 1, the creation of the multiverse, and 2, the ending the final war with the AntiMonitor. First, the creation of the universe involves one of the Guardians of the Universe, the people who created the Green Lantern Corps, Krona, who looked at the Dawn of Time and caused some sort of disruption, which led to that one universe being split into an infinite amount, creating the multiverse, which apparently was never supposed to happen. But this also led to the creation of the Antimatter universe and the AntiMonitor. That is one instance where the Dawn of Time played a huge role in the Crisis, which means that if we see that in this crossover, then we could be seeing the Guardians of the Universe, which is really, really cool, and also maybe the Green Lantern Corps, which is actually most likely what's going to be happening. Mark Guggenheim said that in the first 10 minutes or so of the 4th part, we'll be seeing the origin story of the Monitor and maybe even the origin story of the multiverse, and this means that we could be seeing Krona and the rest of the Guardians of the Universe. Krona, along with the likes of Psycho Pirate and Alexander Luthor from Earth 3, are really the only main Crisis players in the comics who have yet to appear in this crossover. And while I don't think Psycho Pirate will be coming back for this crossover, even though it definitely seemed like he would, Alexander Luthor probably won't either. I do think Krona has the largest possibility of appearing in this crossover in this origin story of the Monitor and the AntiMonitor. One other thing we'll be seeing with this origin story is the reason the characters have these costumes, why the Monitor has this outfit, why the AntiMonitor has this outfit. I'm guessing it's like a containment device, because in the comics the AntiMonitor was like this ball of energy that was contained within his suit, and the same thing could be for the Monitor as well, and that's why in this universe, or in this multiverse, they have these outfits, and we're going to see all of that in the first 10 minutes or so of this first episode of Part 2, or the endgame of the crossover. And the second time the Dawn of Time played a large role in the Crisis was in the battle against the AntiMonitor, when all of these heroes, a whole army of heroes, went back to the Dawn of Time and fought and also defeated the AntiMonitor. It was mainly the Spectre who did the most damage, which in this Crisis is very apparently going to be the case, as the Spectre here is Oliver Queen, who's basically the main character of the Arrowverse, and the main character this Crisis has been focusing around, or at least focused around before the Crisis came around. It definitely seems like the Spectre or Oliver Queen will be doing the most damage against the AntiMonitor, but it does seem like this battle, this war against the AntiMonitor, will be in this crossover. I'm guessing in Part 4, maybe a little bit scaled down, as it's really just 7 heroes plus a villain, and that's it, unlike the original Crisis, which was a whole army of heroes and also some villains fighting the AntiMonitor. He will be very scaled down, which I mean, this is what we really should expect from the CW. It is very low budget, and when it comes to the budget they're given and the budget they have, this is absolutely the best they can do, and I definitely appreciate that. But also, they made it fit in the story where it's only really 7 heroes plus a villain left that are alive in the multiverse, so I don't really think there's any problem here with it being so scaled down, just because they fit it in the actual story, and they have a small enough budget that it is excusable. But 8 seconds into the trailer, we see the Reverse Flash for the first time in the crossover. Again, another thing I definitely didn't expect to go this way, as looking at part 1 and 2, I definitely expected for him to appear in part 3, and for the whole thing where he fights the Flash with the Shadow Demons and the Justice League all team up against the Reverse Flash, for that to happen there in part 3, since that is the Flash's episode. But it does seem like it's either happening in part 4 or 5, where the Reverse Flash will return. Something that I really hope doesn't happen is that the AntiMonitor is defeated in part 4 or maybe early on in part 5, and then the Reverse Flash is later the next main villain of the crossover, because while Reverse Flash is great, certainly the best main villain in the Arrowverse at this point, I just think the crossover should focus more on the AntiMonitor being the final main villain. So I'm hoping the Reverse Flash's appearance is earlier in the crossover than the ending. I hope it's not the final battle, and maybe it happens in part 4 or maybe early on in part 5, with the final battle we've been seeing in the set photos where a lot of Justice League members, where we don't actually see Oliver. I hope that is the actual final battle of the crossover, because it is against the AntiMonitor, and while again it would be really cool, it is really cool to see the Reverse Flash, he certainly should not be the actual main villain of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So as Oliver is saying the AntiMonitor is extremely powerful, we see a shot of the AntiMonitor where he's standing up and facing off against someone. This is very, very possibly the fight between the AntiMonitor and the Spectre, as the person he's facing off against is green, doesn't really fit any of the 7 Paragons, so this is most likely Oliver Queen as the Spectre, and I'm hoping that both of these characters become giants like in the comics, and we see a fight like that. Which is hinted at later in the trailer, where the 7 Paragons, although we don't see Ryan Choi, I'm guessing he's in front of Lex Luthor, all are looking up, and I'm guessing they're looking up at the fight between the Spectre and the AntiMonitor, where they can't really help out that much. Certainly White Canary and Batwoman can't really help that much, and obviously Ryan Choi, Martian Manhunter, the Flash, Supergirl, and I also think Lex Luthor, if he has the Lexosuit, could help out a little bit, but for the most part, they are kind of powerless against the AntiMonitor, while the Spectre isn't at all, and I'm guessing this is what they're looking at. Now, I do think that in this trailer overall, the shots of that they show in the trailer don't exactly look great. Like I said earlier, the green tint this area has doesn't look very good. It kind of looks dull. Not only that, the Lex Luthor doesn't seem to be wearing his Lexosuit. He just has that arm cannon. John Jones is not in his Martian Manhunter form at all in this episode. And it doesn't seem like Ryan Choi built an Atom suit, which I definitely think would have been cool. So it definitely thinks that maybe they're pouring their entire budget of the episode into the fight between the AntiMonitor and the Spectre, and they couldn't really give anything to Martian Manhunter, the Lexosuit, or even an Atom suit. But the trailer ends with Oliver saying that the 8 of us might not be enough, which is accurate. The AntiMonitor certainly is more powerful than them. Even more powerful than the Spectre, as in the comics, the Spectre, while doing a lot more damage than anybody else, absolutely needed the help of other magicians, and also there was a whole army of heroes, so just the Spectre himself, and then these 7 other heroes, or 6 other heroes, plus Lex Luthor, it definitely would not be enough, even if they are the Paragons. So yeah, there will be the other heroes returning. Like I said earlier, there were set photos of the likes of Superman, Spartan, Dreamer, Black Canary, Wild Dog, and others who are all not Paragons and are all currently dead, seen fighting the AntiMonitor. Oliver isn't there, but it might be that he's CGI, so he's going to be there as the Spectre. But for now, it does seem like it is obvious that those characters, and every universe probably, will be returning, even though in the original Crisis, it wasn't every universe that returned. In fact, none of them did. It's just that 5 of them survived. Well, this is different. It's not like they had a couple universes left, or even one universe left that survived. None of them survived, which means that if they can bring back one of them, they could probably bring back all of them, which brings up the question, not only how will they bring them back, but also how many of them will survive, and what will be the aftermath of all of it. But then restoring the multiverse will almost definitely have to do with the Dawn of Time, where they go back there before the multiverse was created, and something changes so that the multiverse never dies. Maybe the combination of Earth 1 and Earth 38 changes certain events so that they never fail like that. Harbinger never manages to kill the Monitor back in Part 3 because of their combined forces. Now, I don't really know if that's exactly going to happen, but one thing I do know is that while Earth 38 and Earth 1 will combine, and maybe Black Lightning's universe as well, there will still be a multiverse, and there will be still other universes that don't die, but also they come back, namely Lucifer's universe and the Titans verse. Basically confirm this. For Lucifer, apparently the cameo in part 3 was before the entirety of the show chronologically, which means that that universe has to come back, but also it has to be in a different universe, because there's never been any mention at all of any Earth 1 related things in Lucifer, and it does not seem like it's on Earth 1, because superheroes don't exactly exist in that universe. As for the Titans verse, while it is possible for season 3 to be a part of the Arrowverse's Earth 1, it wouldn't really work, because not only are there characters like Deathstroke and Batman who exist on both universes and are different, but also that would mean that show would have to go by the rules of the Arrowverse, the continuity of the Arrowverse, and that just doesn't work. So those shows confirm that the multiverse will come back, but also there are certain universes that will still live without combining into Earth 1. So unlike the original Crisis, there won't just be one new Earth. There will be the new Earth, probably Earth 1, Earth 38, the Black Lightning universe, but also there will still be a multiverse. But anyway, that's basically my thoughts on everything we learned in this trailer, but let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below, and if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.